The foundation for your brand should be that you do what you say you're going to do. If you want to long-term build something of significance that's going to impact people, that starts by just delivering and doing what you say you're going to do. People ask me all the time, like, how do you deal with all the comments and stuff people say about you? And I'm like, I don't care.
He doesn't pay attention to it.
A stranger online that I've never met and doesn't know me, like, I wouldn't ask their opinion anyway, right. So why do I care?
Like, how would you know when to say yes to a new business venture?
If it's not a hell yes, it's a no.
Welcome, everyone, to the Authentic Media Podcast. It's your host, Danielle J. Martin. And on this podcast, we are talking about ways to develop an authentic brand. It's a special episode today because I'm sitting down with, I would say, my boss here, Cody Foster. He is a co-founder of Advisors Excel. It's a financial marketing company organization here in Topeka, Kansas. He's also an owner of multiple restaurants and multiple businesses. But Cody, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I'm excited.
Yeah. We'll see how we do.
Thank you for joining me. This is a different setup normally than you normally have a podcast. So you're normally actually interviewing the person.
Yeah. I don't do a lot of them. So
yeah. I'm excited to have you here though, because I think your perspective around building a brand, in case you don't know, that's kind of the hot topic right now in I would say social media and businesses. People are all about building personal brands.
Yep.
And I think you would be a perfect person to speak to this because you've kind of created, I don't know if you noticed this, but in Topeka, Kansas, a brand around building communities. And that's essentially what this episode is about, is how do you build a brand focused on your values, focused on what you truly believe in, and staying true to your core.
Cool.
Right? So
we'll see what we can do.
Let's see what we can do. Yeah. So I want to start here with how do you build a brand that not only grows businesses, but also transforms communities and lives while staying true to your core values?
Big question to start
Big
off
mouthful.
with. Yeah. You know what's interesting too, I think you've seen my friend Rory Vaden speak. You know, he talks a ton about the like personal brands. And in a weird way, I don't know that I've ever invested a ton of time in like my personal brand. It's, I hate to say it this way, it's like never been super important to me, right? I've always focused, like even when we started, so much focused on just growing AE. That's really what we were focused on. And the thing that I think has always been part of that to a degree is like, we don't do business locally much, you know, Megan, Carl, we've got some advisors locally, but like our business was always across the country. And then we're not a consumer facing brand. Like we're kind of the people behind the advisors. So like building our own personal brand, you know, 20 years ago wasn't that big of a deal. It was more about building the AE brands. So I've probably approached this in a little different way of like, you've heard me say this before. In an ideal world, I kind of wish nobody knew who I was. So I may not be the best to talk about branding, but I think a lot of, if you want to call it my personal brand, I guess, in this community is probably, it's been a little different. I haven't been super intentional about building my personal brand. I've been very intentional about building businesses. And then I think my brand has been maybe a little closer associated. So maybe I've gone about it a little different than, you know, what you see today a little bit more, especially, you know, we have a lot of people we bring in who have great personal brands, especially on social media. I don't know that I have that one. Jenna's working on me, but you know.
She's pulling you closer.
Yeah. So I'm going to take this in a little different way, I guess. I would say like long-term, building you use the word values. I think building something that's true to who you are, right? And it's the only thing I don't always love about some of the social media brands. Like some of the people I've met, like that ain't who they are, right? And so I think building something like true to who you are and understanding what your core values are. But then also, I guess like long-term, I think building something of value, like something that's valuable to the community is one of those things that's going to build your brand. For most people, my brand's probably most closely associated with Advisors Excel, maybe in Topeka, a little different with some of the other stuff. But, you know, I think we've just tried to build that with an excellence and want that to be like one of our core values is that we do things with excellence. And I think, you know, over the 20 years, that's what that brand has kind of become known as in our space. I don't know that we set out to say this is what it's going to be. We just tried to build it that way. And I think let the business or create its own brand or speak for itself a little bit. So I know that's a long rambling answer, but I would say good. I think being like really core to who you are is the only thing that works long term.
Yeah.
We have advisors all the time, right? They want to try and build these social media brands and but they want to outsource it. And I say the only people I've seen that do it well, like they manage and do their social media because it's who they are and they're being like authentic in their brand. They're not trying to fake it and be something that they're not. So I think it is like really figuring out what is important to you. What are those values that are important, making that kind of foundational to it. But then second, I would say is like long-term, you know, whether it's like someone who is influencer on social media, trying to add value there or business owner or something, like I think you also have to build something that adds value to other people, right? If long-term, if you don't add value to other people, like the likes and following eventually go away. I mean, I think people follow people that are providing value to whatever, the world.
Right. And I would say too, for those who may not be very familiar with your background, you've built a brand empire around, you know, financial marketing services, real estate, community, and development. And so you've been a huge pillar to Topeka growing to the space and to the reason why we're here, why we're getting development changes in the mall, why we're seeing restaurants downtown, why we're seeing real estate grow in the way that it is. And so I think that naturally, without you realizing it, like Topeka is where it's at because of your interest in wanting to see the community grow. But I think you brought up a really unique word that I think it's another buzzword that many people don't know how to do, which is being authentic to themselves. And knowing you as long as I have, you're really big in your faith and you don't put anything past that. And you talk about that in all the things that you do. From your perspective, how do you stay authentic when it comes to building a business?
Well, that's I don't know. That's a tough question to answer. I think because it can be tricky or hard for people to do that today, right? Because I think you kind of what we were talking about earlier. I think you see so many people that kind of fake who they are, try and portray something. Like, I mean, I had someone who I won't mention their name, but like asked if they could come. We have a plane at work, right? They asked if they could come take pictures in front of the plane. Like they don't have a plane. They want to take, and I'm like, that's not really, not you know. Yeah. Now on the flip side, you won't find a picture of me in front of our plane ever because that's not like, I don't care about that. It's just I travel 150 days a year, right? It makes my life a lot easier. Everyone's life at AE a lot easier from that standpoint. So I do think it is like just not getting trapped in that a little bit, I think is important. I think it can be easy for people who are trying to do that. They see these other people doing it and say like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do, right? But I think honestly, the brands that have survived like long-term are more authentic, right? They don't kind of follow those fads or like what's everyone doing right now and trying to copy that. So I think that's a pretty important part of it too. I don't know if you've heard me say, I mean, you've probably heard me say it a little at work over the years too. Like I take things very serious, but I don't take myself too serious. You know, my philosophy is like show up and do the work and what's going to happen is going to happen. Right. And so I probably don't overthink things too much or worry about things too much. People ask me all the time, like, how do you deal with all the comments and stuff people say about you? And I'm like, oh, I don't care. Like, I mean,
he doesn't pay attention to it.
Yeah, I mean, if it's someone that I know and care about, knows me, that's giving me feedback, great. You know, I'm going to listen to that. But a stranger online that I've never met and doesn't know me, like, I wouldn't ask their opinion anyway. So why do I care? You know what their opinion is as someone who doesn't know. So I think, but the only reason I say that is like that can also influence you if you do let that impact you, right? You will try and appease or meet, you know, the needs of all these different people or try and keep people happy. And so I think that's important. Like you have to understand this is what I don't like, right? Is your profile grows. Like you are going to have a lot more people say stuff about you who've never met you, right? Don't know you at all. And so if you're not prepared for that, I think that can be hard in staying authentic to who you are. So I don't worry a lot about that now.
Yeah.
Probably early in our career, that probably bothered me more. Now I've kind of learned to realize like that's just what happens, right?
Right.
It gives people a platform to feel significant. So they'll use that in all kinds of different ways. So I think it is like understanding who you're trying to be, like not following the fads that are there
Right.
to like be something that you're not, but then also being comfortable with like, not worrying what other people think or say is
important.
It's not always easy to do, right? But it's pretty important if you want to stay authentic to what you're trying to do.
Yeah. And just so you know, too, like the audience who mainly listens to this is a lot of business owners who are trying to grow their brand. So in the age of building a personal brand, what advice would you give business owners who really should be focusing on building a legacy rather than focusing on how many likes and trying to go viral, right?
Yeah, depending on your business, if you can go viral, that's great. I mean, that can really
Could benefit.
be good for the business. With some exceptions to that, I say this all the time, is like you as the leader, but also the business and the foundation of it has to grow at a rate that can support some of those things. So there are a lot of businesses you'll see that may go viral with something, but they don't have the infrastructure or the pieces in place to really support that, and it falls apart. So what I would tell any business owner is the foundation for your brand should be that you do what you say you're going to do. Like if you want to long term build something of significance that's going to impact people, like that starts by just delivering and doing what you're saying you're going to do.
Right.
I would probably add like doing it with as much excellence as you can possibly do too. I think matters, but it's probably cliche a little bit, but probably matters a little less what you say or what you post online and actually what you do.
Yeah.
And so I think that if there's one downside I see to some of the personal branding efforts is like more time is spent on the brand than actually like the delivery of what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And so foundationally, I think if you can start there, like we're just going to build a great business that delivers and we do what we say we're going to do. Like that's a good foundation to build off of. So don't let I guess what I would say is don't let the work you put into building the brand like outstrip the capacity for the business to deliver, what the brand promises to some degree.
Very well said. Okay, well, speaking of principles and values, I love the core values of Advisors Excel. And so when you and David decided to put together these core values, right, of 1AE and just all the things that we really stand strong on, talk about the significance of what it means to build brand principles for your business and sticking with that while you're growing your business, while you're trying to scale it too.
Yeah, and what's interesting about that is like for the first 10 to 12 years, somewhere in there, time gets a little blurry for me now. We'd never really articulated those, right? It was when we went through the process and bought Derek out that, and we went through this scaling up, brought in a coach to help us think about how to grow and scale the business. And that was one of the things that came out of that is like what is the vision, the mission, core values. So we took some time to actually articulate what is important to us. And what was nice is like, I think we had generally lived those core values out. We had just never really sat down to like document and articulate them for the rest of the team. I think why that's been important, if you look back eight-ish years ago or whenever we went through that process, 7-8 years ago, I mean, we've probably had 500 new people start at Advisors Excel since that period of time. And I think as the business has grown, early on, we were so involved and close to everyone that was there. For the first couple hundred employees, I knew everyone's name. I hate that I don't know it now, but it's virtually impossible, So it became important as the business grew that we were articulating and like repeating those values consistently versus just, I would say, the first 10 to 12 years, we just were kind of living those values out and you could influence it. But as it's gotten bigger, like you have to communicate that better. So for us, I think we lived them for a while, but then we're able to articulate them of like, here's really what these mean. And I still think we can do a better job. Like what does taking ownership really mean? But I would say it's helped us in a lot of ways. It's helped us try and identify the right people we bring onto the team. I mean, reiterate why that's important, recognize the people who demonstrate that, right? every month at our all team meeting, like the rock stars are nominated based around those core values. So we're able to repeat those. So, but again, I think that's one of those things for any business owner specifically, like even those, you have to make sure they're true to who you are, right? That you're not just like, this is whatever the hot company of the month, talks about being their core values. So we're going to create those, like make it fit like who you are and what you want it to be, and kind of build the culture around that.
Because they're so simple, but they're so necessary because they stick to you, right? Like being an excellent teammate, taking ownership. And so I think never stop growing. I love how simple and easy it is even for the employees to make it stick to you.
Yeah.
So going into rebranding. So before we started, we were talking about one of our advisors who's in the process of rebranding. And I think it's exciting. I went through that process, literally launching Authentic Media. And so, but from your perspective, you talked about getting a coach for someone who may be in the process of feeling like they're not connecting with their business anymore. How do you know when it's the right time to rebrand?
Well, we've never really rebranded, right? So
Actually,
not in a big way. It's such an well, I'll give you a real example of this, right? We're talking about it with Westridge right now to a degree. And I mean, there's some debate back and forth of should it rebrand? Like, as we, we're probably 6-8 months away from construction really starting, but like all the design's almost done. And it's like, so it's going to look different. It's going to look better. Hopefully we can bring some retail back.
Yes.
I mean, there's a big vision for what we want to do there. So there's been a bunch of back and forth. Like, should we like rename it, rebrand it, redo all that? Part of me is like, when you've invested a lot of time, and so this will be where you're going a little, because even with Megan, right? This would be the example. She's not necessarily changing the name.
Right.
And I think that's kind of what we've settled on is like, I don't know that we're going to change the name Westridge. Like, it's just so synonymous with that location.
It's just like changing the colors.
Yes. And I think some of that is just like, what do you want it to be and stand for and look like?
Yeah.
I would say on small businesses for sure, we're no different. Like, if you saw like our early AE stuff, like it's brutal, like really, really, really
grown.
bad.
Yeah.
Yes.
We've
and
grown.
So I think most small businesses, when you're starting now, it's a lot easier today than it was 20 years ago when we started. Like, your brand could probably use some updating
like
and
an
refreshing.
Uplift.
Yeah.
Like our website right now, phenomenal.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. It wasn't always that way, right? And our first website was really bad. So I think, but here's maybe the other thing I'd say. You asked about timing. It can distract you to a degree too. So like,
That's true.
wouldn't, changing or updating your brand's not going to be the magic bullet if your business is struggling, right? It's, to me, it's more one of those things is you built the business right and the business is growing and you have some time and capacity and maybe some financial resources to do that. I think that's a good time to do it. If you think your brand needs an update, which, ours has along the way, very seldom, if you put a lot of time into the name, do I like changing the name. I just think if you put that work in, that's a tough thing to change. Now, if you're early on, you're like, this just isn't connecting or right maybe, but like, it would be a mistake for us 20 years in to change the name Advisors Excel because so much work has gone into building that brand.
So when I talk to a lot of business owners about building a brand, one of the things I always hit home on is the foundational piece to starting any type of brand is understanding your why. Right. And I think that starts with who you are and understanding, like, why did you start this business? What does it mean to you? And just kind of going truly, really internal, looking at yourself in the mirror and asking yourself, what is my why? What is my purpose? What would you say to that? Do you think that is a part of building a brand as well? Starting with yourself and asking yourself what your why is?
What I would say is if you have a strong one, it will make building the brand and building the business easier. I would agree with that. But now, there's a lot of people that I know who have built very successful businesses and brands that I don't know that they necessarily had a strong why. It's just like that's what they were good at, right? Or maybe, I mean, my story's like first job out of college kind of evolved out of there. Mine's a little different. Like my grandma went through bankruptcy when she was in her 60s. And so that drove me into financial services. I was actually a PR major in college and wanted to work for a sports team, but went and got a job at CapFed like a couple weeks after that happened, just because I wanted to learn more about money. And so it kind of sent me down this path that I've been on. So not everyone necessarily has that, but like, I think if you do have it and connecting with that, I mean, that's a supercharger for sure. I know Bo Eason, who you've seen, we've had Bo speak a lot through the years, like talks a lot about that. Like if you understand your personal story and what it is that's driving you, and he's the one who actually helped me kind of connect what I was doing and what we were building back to my grandma's story, right? As he took us through that process. So if you have it and you can figure out how to leverage or tie it into what you're trying to do, it will be a superpower for the brand.
That's awesome. Many entrepreneurs, they struggle with the idea of starting small, but thinking big, right? So what advice would you give them when it comes to building something that's scalable and something that can sustain as well?
Start small and build the foundation, right? Right. So, so I don't, people ask us all the time, like, did you ever envision Advisors Excel would look like this? And we tell the story a lot of like, no, when we started, we actually said we were never going to have more than 50 employees.
Now we're at 1,000. Yes.
And so, but part of that is, I think we just started small, we're growing it. People, I say this a lot, but people feel like, I guess maybe from the outside looking in, it looks like it's been this fast growth. I feel like it's been 20 years of just steady, consistent compounding, right? To me, it doesn't feel like it's been this fast growth. It's been, I've been there since day one, and I've just seen the consistent growth and the compounding of that. So that's maybe what I would say is like building it the right way and putting the work in and starting small and doing the right things allow you to compound the results, right? And the compound effect is a real thing, right? Doing small things consistently well over time compounds quickly. And so that would be, I think one of the key things is like, you do have to do the small things and you have to do them really, really well. And most businesses are not overnight successes. They're decade plus successes that compound over time from doing the small things well. The second thing I would say is like, understand if you have a scalable business or not, right? A lot of businesses are not truly scalable, and that's okay. Like, probably 90% of businesses in the US aren't a truly scalable business. I think where you can get yourself in troubles if you are trying to make it scalable when it's not really a scalable business. And this probably isn't the best example because obviously there's tons of examples of them scaling, but like the restaurants we have, like we've never started those businesses with the idea of them being a scalable business, right? Mainly that wasn't important to us. What was important to us was trying to do something here in our local community, not getting into building a franchisable restaurant, right? The reason I share that is like, you would probably have done all those a little bit differently, and there's things I do different about all of them, but you would have done those differently if you were trying to scale them. We don't necessarily want it to be a scalable business. We're trying to do something here locally. So I think understanding like, is the business scalable or not is also like an important thing. A lot of them aren't. So don't try and do something that's scalable that's going to be, that you're going to fight that, I guess, the whole time. So, and then final thing I would say is like, a business or brand is only scalable to your comfort level with bringing in great people around you. That would be the thing I would say at AE, right? We could have quit after we hired 40 people and it wouldn't look anything like it does today. And part of that was our, youth and inexperience at the time of thinking like more people equal more headaches. And sometimes it does, right? But generally speaking, I think where my mind's changed so much is like hiring great people is so freeing and it allows you to scale. Like that's obviously there's like technology things that you could possibly scale, but even that's going to require probably quite a few people. But like, if you're going to scale something, you're going to have to get really good at leading people because that's the only way to scale any business or brand long-term.
And you're right. Like culture is important, but you can go ahead.
I was going to say, I was just listening to Dave Ramsey. He's got a new book out. So he's doing a bunch of the podcast series. And it's funny because, he gets some hate in the financial world about how terrible his advice is or whatever. And I say all the time, like, no, his advice is incredible for people who are in debt and need to get out of debt. Like he's the best there is, maybe all time at it. Other things in the financial world, he's maybe not as good at, but like that's what he scaled that business off of. But even him, you look at, he has over 1,000 employees, right? And so he's a brand to himself, but now like even that brand as it's built, like he's got 1,000 employees helping him run and generate revenue off that brand. They have a $600 million campus in Tennessee that he paid cash for. He has no debt on the business. So just anything like that, you think of him as, that's one of the premier all-time personal brands in personal finance, all time. And it's scaled like crazy, but he's got 1,000 employees. And, he's brought in a lot of people to be able to do that, to the level he has. So compared to, like, I don't mean this, we've got some of the best advisors in the country work with us. Like none of them are touching what Dave Ramsey's done, but none of them have 1,000 employees, so it's like that is going to be the long-term key to scaling also.
Your brand deserves more than just a selfie. It deserves a vision captured perfectly. Hi, I'm Danielle J. Martin, and I'm here to help you create a visual identity that creates a lasting impression. So whether you're launching a business or you're enhancing your presence or you're rebranding, your photos are your first impression. So our brand photo shoots aren't just for you to take pretty pictures, but they're for you to tell your story, build trust, and connect with your audience in a whole different way. So if you're ready to elevate your brand that creates a lasting impression, go ahead and click that link down below. Let's even get into that. Let's get into the brand of Advisors Excel. One of the special things I've learned too about stepping into this industry of us being this FMO is that we offer something that many FMOs do not. Did you ever see Advisors Excel getting to this space of being the top #1 FMO in the world?
Probably not early, but there was a point where we definitely did. So, when we started the business, I think out of the gate, and I think any business, back to that, like start small, think big. When you start a business, like your first few years are more survival. and anyone who tells you different, like it's so much harder than you can ever dream or imagine it's going to be, right? And so that I think that's such the first few years are about like, man, how do we just build this to survive? Pretty early on, and this is one of the things I think we did is we stepped into an industry that was kind of an older, I would say maybe a little complacent, maybe a little lazy. It was kind of this forced distribution. Advisors had to use a group like us. So all that really matters, did you have the contracts or not? And they weren't really adding value because they didn't have to. Right. We kind of stepped into that, and like part of it was because we were struggling advisors and wanted to find someone who could help us. So I think when we started adding value and we started to have results pretty quickly, and everyone's like, man, this is different than what I'm used to, pretty early on. So our first goal, I say this a lot, it was more of a spiteful kind of goal. When we left to start it, our boss said we'd never make it. We didn't know what we're doing, underfunded, just three of you. And his goal had always been to do $1 billion in production. We never did it when we were at PBS, the place I worked at before. So our original vision, I guess you would say, our goal was like, we're going to do $1 billion in a year just to prove him wrong. Yeah. And so that started, and we ended up hitting that in like our fifth year, I guess, kind of fourth into fifth year. And so that's when we started talking about, so then our second kind of vision, I guess you would say, is like, we want to become #1 all time. Like we want to do it at a level where no one will ever duplicate it. So, 4 or 5 years in, we started thinking that way, like we have a chance to go do something special. Now, we've kind of moved beyond that to where now we have this vision of a business that can really impact, the 3 communities that we serve. And so it's probably gone beyond this like numerical number, like ego thing, to more like, no, how do we now leverage the business in a way to impact others? So the only reason I share that is like, I think it's one of those things that can evolve and change as you evolve and change over time. As the business has some success, as you grow and learn and get better, I guess I would say like your business like vision should probably change as you're going through that.
Yeah.
So
And I think that's important for people to understand that at some point you do have to kind of spoke about it, evolving your mindset and being in a growth mindset. So if you want your business to sustain and get to a specific space, like you're going to have to grow as a person.
yeah,
Right. And you're huge on personal development, which
yeah,
in the company is as well, which is one of the things I love so much is that, yes, we're working and serving our advisors, but we personally also have to grow as well, which seems like that is a core value for you as a brand.
yeah. Some of it's out of necessity, right? It's the business growth, but we say this a lot that if the pace of the pace of the growth of the business ever outpaces our own personal growth to lead the business, like we're going to be in trouble, and that trickles down through the entire organization, right?
Yeah.
It's and I think that's something people have to realize more than anything is like as the I say all the time, like in a lot of ways, my life is easier today because we do have such a good team around us. Like I get to spend more time doing the things I'm probably most gifted at and enjoy, which is a great place to be at. On the flip side, there's a weight and responsibility that you carry that's hard to completely explain at times. There's just 1,000 people show up every day, kind of counting on us and their families, and 600 advisors and all their staff and their clients, and plenty of things in the community. I don't know, probably have 350 employees outside of AE through the other businesses that we have. So there's a certain weight or responsibility you carry. So I'm part of, I think, what's always driven me from a personal growth is like, there's a lot of people that do count on us. And so I just feel it's kind of my obligation to continue to grow in a way that those people know that if something goes bad, it's not going to be because of lack of effort or me trying to grow and get better.
Right. So let's dive into a little bit more of AIM Strategies. So you're the owner of AIM Strategies, and which means basically you own a lot of the restaurants and real estate in Topeka. That's another hot topic for a lot of people my age trying to get into real estate.
Yeah.
But I want you to be real with us. And what's something that you've learned, let's say in the restaurant business, real estate business, that you wish you would have learned or known before?
Oh, where should we start there?
Okay, you always say that never open up a restaurant.
Don't do it. It's bad.
We're here now.
So here's a funny story. I've shared a little bit about my grandma, not a lot, but my grandma owned a restaurant, and that's what led her to bankruptcy.
Gotcha.
And I grew up working in the restaurant with her, right? So I should know better. I say all the time, like I've got to witness firsthand, unlike most people, like firsthand how hard it is to run a restaurant, how hard it is to make those make good financial sense. Here's why, though. Like people think I'm joking. They're like, "You own 4 of them." And I'm like, that was more because we're trying to have a positive impact on some things here,
Right.
and we've been able to put some of the people around to help us run them well, right? So that is said a different way, and this is going to sound bad. I've had the financial resources to hire some great people to help us run them well. Not everyone always has that when they start out. So I always say there's like some components of a great business. One is like, is it a low cost of capital to start? Like restaurants don't check that box, right? They're expensive to open. Just a kitchen alone is going to cost you $100,000, if not more, depending upon the size of the restaurant. Like, can you open it with just a few people? Restaurant's pretty tough. It's I use Pennant as the example. Pennant cost us $2 million to open. We went into a very empty space, so you could maybe lease something a little cheaper. Had 53 employees, I think, day one. And then the other thing I always look at in a business is, does it have a good margin? And restaurants don't have good margins, right? And those have gotten a lot tighter over the last few years as the cost of everything has gone up. So, like, if you were checking a box for a good business, like low cost of capital to entry. One I left out, not a lot of competition, right?
Yeah.
A lot of competition in restaurants. Don't have to hire a bunch of people to start and a good margin. Like doesn't check any of those boxes. So that's why I really do say like they're tough. The other thing, if you're going to be an owner operator, like you're open a lot to make them work, right? So when you look at just the hours, like AE, I mean, honestly, I don't work I work 8 to 5, but like my mind's consumed there a lot more. But like restaurants, like you're open a lot of hours. You're open on weekends. You're open on holidays. Like it's just, it really is a tough business. So those are the reasons I say like really I wouldn't. But on the flip side, there's, and I try and tell our team this a lot too. There's also, as someone who grew up in it, like from the time I was 5 years old washing dishes, till I graduated and came down here to Washburn. Like, there's also something noble to serving other people. And I think that gets lost a lot of times in hospitality. I'll call it hospitality versus just restaurants, right? Hotel, restaurants. You do get the opportunity to serve people through some really like good times and bad times both. I mean, people celebrate at restaurants.
Yeah.
People go to restaurants after a funeral. Like, I mean, you're able to serve people in some cool moments. And I think done well, like give them the opportunity to kind of either enjoy or step away from something they're dealing with too.
Yeah.
So,
You're good. Let's talk about for people who want to venture off into real estate, buy a restaurant, if that's something that they want to do. Would you recommend, like, how would you know what is your personal litmus test of like knowing when to say yes to a new personal business venture? You talked about earlier that like sometimes rebranding or focusing on your brand is not something that you should do because then it takes your eyes off of your business.
Yeah.
But for someone who wants to, make an impact in their community, kind of similar to like what you're doing, like I want to be a Cody Foster. What advice would you get them? Like, what is your personal litmus test to saying yes?
let me answer that a couple ways. So here's what I would say. My personal litmus test. This is my friend Darren Hardy said this so long ago, and it's just my wife and I both. This has kind of been our thing. If it's not a hell yes, it's a no. And so it's if it's something I'm like from the minute I hear it, I'm like, yep, absolutely, I want to do that.
Right.
If it's not that, then it's a no. And so that's kind of my personal litmus test. What I would say more specifically to like let's talk real estate, restaurants, anything that you're going to invest in. One, make sure you understand it. Like so many people, I hear people want to invest in real estate because they think that's like
the new money maker.
Correct. There's so many better places to invest your money than real estate and easier, right? So it's not just that you have to really understand what you're doing to make money in real estate.
Yes.
I would argue you could put your money in a well-diversified, low-cost ETF fund at Vanguard and probably do better over a decade than you would investing in real estate. The other thing there is like you can set it and forget it there. You don't have to do anything, right? Yeah. Depending on what you're doing in real estate, like you may be cleaning toilets on a weekend, trying to change out that, it's just so more than anything, like understand if you're looking at it from an investment standpoint, understand what the heck you're investing in, right? And I would argue there's probably easier ways to make similar returns with a lot less headache and not having to know as much about it. The second I would say is like, if it's something you really want to do though, like you're passionate, let's say you're passionate about real estate and you want to, let's say you want to start investing in this community and try and reshape this community, like then put the work in to learn it.
Right.
That would be the other thing I would say. Like some of the people that I know who do well in real estate, they know real estate inside and out. They know what they can pay for a property. They know what they have to rent. They know their margins. They know what it's going to cost them to renovate a property. They're students of that game. So they do well because they invest the time to know and understand it. So, but I would say that about anything, right? Any business that you're going to start, real estate, restaurant, anything else, like you've got to be a student of the game and understand how the business works and how to make the business work and put the time in. If you don't, like your business is not easy, right?
Yeah.
I know it's super sexy now to be an entrepreneur, but it's not easy. And so, sometimes I think people make it look easier or it appears easier from the outside looking in than it really is. So like you're going to have to put the work in, if you want it to be successful.
Yeah. I told Michael the other day, I said, it's your fault that I'm starting a business because you made it look too easy for me. I was like, I don't know what I signed up for. Like, this is not fun to do it by yourself.
But it's funny, him and I just had lunch Saturday.
I was like, this is not fun.
But even he was talking about like just challenges and growing and scaling, right? And he's an example because I've seen him from day one when Omni started, right?
Yeah.
I remember meeting him for the first time and this was like an idea, right? I've gotten to see all the hard work. Like people don't see the 15, 20 hour days and stuff that he's put in. Right. And so, you only see like I like to say you only see the front of stage production.
Yeah, for sure.
You don't see everything that's gone on behind stage to get it there.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. So I know this might be a hard question for you, but you've invested millions in Topeka, the Topeka community, because you genuinely want to see it grow,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
And so I'm curious from your perspective, what do you hope that people say about you and your brand as you are continuing to wanting to see this community grow?
I don't know that I guess I would say I don't know that I care what people say about me or my brand.
Which I love that about you.
Yeah. Lecrae's a good friend of mine. He has this great line he says all the time. He says, if you live for people's acceptance, you'll die by their rejection. And that's just always stuck with me, right? I'm very comfortable in who I am. And that ties into my faith a lot too.
Yeah.
Like that there's not something there that, is an issue for me, I guess, so I'm comfortable with who I am and what I'm trying to do, and other people's opinions aren't going to impact that.
Yeah.
With that said, what I would hope, and this is where I would say the opinion would, like, if we're getting terrible reviews on all our restaurants because they're being ran poorly and we're doing a terrible job, like that does matter to me. So I guess, anything I would want to be associated with is that we're trying to do it well, right? Doesn't mean we're always going to be perfect, for sure, especially in, restaurants, hospitality, some of those things, even AE, right? We make a lot of mistakes there too. So you're never going to be perfect, but I would hope, like, if someone looked back, they're like, man, everything he tried to do well, right? Didn't cut corners, like tried to build it the right way, tried to do it with some excellence. I think that would be one thing. And then hopefully long-term, people will realize, understand, like, a lot of what we've done, it really is to try and improve this community. No offense, my investment portfolio has done 50 times better than my restaurant portfolio and real estate portfolio in Topeka over the last 10 years. Dave, my partner, is so much smarter than me. He doesn't invest in this stuff. He just puts his money into a well-diversified, investment portfolio, and he does a lot better than I do. But it's interesting to me. I bought my first house, 1312 Garfield, a couple blocks away from Washburn, going into my senior year of college. So I've always kind of liked real estate. Going back to it's been a passion for me. I like making old things new. So I really enjoy that. It kind of scratches my creativity and vision itch, I guess you would say. So I don't do it for the return, right? Most of them aren't great returns. Some are okay, but I do think long term, like, it will improve our community, right? I think I continue to hope that we have more and more local developers that are in a position to do that, and we have some. We just need more. And eventually some out of town money will come into peak. You're starting to see that already. I think sometimes we fall in love with out of town people coming in and promising all kinds of things, and very seldom do they come through.
Deliver. Yep.
Yeah. So I guess, it's a long way of saying, like, I just hope people understand why we're doing it, and then more importantly, that anything we do, we are going to try and do well, and hopefully over time that will be reflected that, things that we do, we do well. So. Okay,
I'm going to ask you the big elephant in the room. You bought the mall, for crying out loud, right? Yeah. That was multi-million dollars.
It was a big-ish investment. Yeah.
Okay, but why was that so important for you? Clearly because no one else was going to do it.
That was part of the reason, right? You saw this community asset that was just going in a bad direction, right? This is, keep in mind, it's kind of right in the middle of all the White Lakes Mall disaster, that was going on. But I will say, like, even this, it was also, I would say, we view it as a wise financial decision. And I think anything we've ever tried to do, it goes to building the right foundation. Like, we've tried to make wise financial decisions that set our business up for the long term. So, we ended up buying it for about $9 a square foot. Building something new right now today is $400 to $450 a square foot. So even after we do all the things we want to do to the mall, if you were to look at from, just take the AE office space, right. Like, if you were to look at the cost that we would have sunk into real estate compared to other businesses comparable to our size, it's going to be half to less than half, maybe 40% of what other businesses would have. We'll have about 400,000 square feet of office space when it's all done. So it is a wise financial decision. At least on the AE side, it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
The mall side and trying to revive the retail is going to be a little different. Just because I don't, that's a work in progress. Like, I mean, it's kind of a field of dreams a little bit right now. It's like, if we build it, will they come? And we've had some great conversations. So I think there's a great shot to bring some life back into that. But the mall side of it's a little more uncertain. We're going to invest some money in updating and improving the mall. And maybe by the time this launches, we'll have everything kind of done and can release kind of some of the images of what the final construction package is going to look like. But that one's a little more uncertain. With our space, I know we're moving into it, right? I'm that part doesn't worry me. The rest of the mall that we're building out, I think it's going to be great. I think retail tenants will want to come in there, but I mean that's still a little like we're rolling the dice on this one a little bit. So, but I feel good going back to what I said a minute ago. When people see it and when we execute on what we're trying to do, I think people will say it was done with excellence and it will look different than anything that's been done in Topeka, right? Exactly. And so it will look like something the community will be proud of. Can we get all the retail back in that we would like to get in there to drive that? I don't know. That remains to be seen, but it won't be from a lack of effort. Like we're going to put the effort in, we're going to do it right to where it will be something the community will be proud of, that I think community will come out to. And if those things happen, I think the retail will follow that, and then I have the whole theory that we also have 1,000 people on that campus every day that hopefully will drive, retail wanting to be out there also, because you have kind of a built-in traffic and consumer base there.
Exactly.
So
we'll see. Great ecosystem there. Yeah. So I'm excited. Okay, to close this out, what's one last piece of advice? I know we've been talking a little bit about everything: investments, building a brand, real estate. But if you could give one last piece of advice of staying true to building your authentic brand, what would you say to startup entrepreneurs and then people who are still in business 3 to 5 years right now who are thinking about, this might be a good time for me to rebrand?
I don't know if I have just one. I mean,
okay, 3.
Yeah, okay, well,
okay, 3.
Let me. So I think what I would say, first and foremost is don't complain about the results when you're not doing the work, right? So I just think like underlying to everything is like you have to do the work, and so if it's building a personal brand. I think you may have seen this guy, Chad Willardson. He's got this massive following on LinkedIn. Chad and I were at this men's event, had never met each other, ended up being in the same cabin, start talking. I'm explaining what he does. He's like, oh, like a FMO? He's like, yeah, I do annuities and investment, and so he's built this massive following on LinkedIn, and all his business comes from that. 100% of his business comes from LinkedIn. And I'm like, man, we've had advisors try that. I don't understand. Like, how are you doing that? And he goes, I've posted every day for 7 years. Every single day for 7 years.
Wow.
Right? So he's done the work. Yeah. And so I use that more specific because he has built this great brand on LinkedIn and a huge following that's now driven his business, but he's done the work. So I think in anything, like you just, there's no substitute for doing the work. Like any great brand, any great business is going to be built on a lot of hard work. So I think that's, probably foundational. And maybe the best advice I can give is like, you got to go do the work. I think first and foremost, I know I've said this a couple of times, but I think also just doing what you say you're going to do is also core, I think, to a brand that has longevity. It's one of the things I say at our recruiting events when we're trying to convince advisors to join us. I said, maybe the hardest thing for us to convince people is like everything we say we're going to deliver on. But I'm like, we have retained 97% of the best advisors in the country over the last 20 years, right? Like they would leave if we don't do what we say we're going to do. So I think that's, probably the second thing I would say is like, if you just become known as someone who always does what they say they're going to do, I think that's really, really important. And then probably going back to, what I would hope we'd be known for, I think, try and just do it with some excellence. I think if you can find something that's unique or different, I think that's a good thing. But I think then just do it with excellence. And I mean, if you do the work, do what you say you're going to do and do it with excellence, like you're going to do pretty well. You'll build a brand that is well-known and sustainable and adds value to other people. I think that's probably the best I got off the top of my head. So
okay, you got away with 3. Yeah, that was good. That was good. All right, Cody, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, it's been awesome watching you do this too. So
thank you. Yeah. I appreciate it.
Anytime.
All right, you guys, we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for watching the Authentic Media Podcast YouTube. At Authentic Media Company, our mission is to help you develop an authentic brand so you can make the impact that you are called to make. If you got anything from today's episode, make sure you drop a comment down below. I'm interested to see what your takeaways are. And if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel so you can be the first to know when we drop our newest episode. In the meantime, have a great day.